This is where I thrash.
You will hear me! I will be heard!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of From North to Wharf, your unofficial but verified one-stop destination for Bob's Burgers information. As always, I am Mike.
And I'm JB. How's everyone doing?
It's episode 3, everybody. It's episode 3 of the podcast. So if you haven't already, go back and listen to episodes 1 and 2. Episode 1 kind of introduced ourselves and explained just who we are. If you don't know who we are, episode 2 was about the future possibilities of Bob's Burgers holiday episodes. And today's going to be something a little different. On our last live, depending on when you hear this, one of our last lives, we kind of brought up the idea of Gene falling prey to the second child syndrome, if you will.
The middle child, yeah.
The middle child syndrome, yeah. To say that a lot of stories are geared towards Luis because a lot of children can relate to Luis. A lot of stories are geared towards Tina because a lot of teenagers can relate to Tina. But Gene, when he gets a story, it's kind of the short end of the stick. He kind of gets the same stories over and over again. Just recently, we saw him again with Courtney, kind of doing the same disgruntled couple things that they like to do. And it kind of got us thinking, well, what would be a good Gene story to tell? Mm-hmm. And if we were going to write one, what is a story that we would want to tell for Gene?
And we came up with quite a couple different ideas about what Gene could do. And we were talking a lot about that middle child syndrome. We even were curious, the writers, are there more oldest child writers or youngest child writers, and we just don't have a lot of middle kids writing for Bob's staff. Is that something that might be going on? But we won't know that. But it's interesting that I kept thinking about it as we talked about topics for today. Mm-hmm. Gene started off really strong in the show. He always kind of had a presence. There's some really good solid Gene episodes in the first couple seasons, and then he kind of becomes a sidekick trope character at some point where he just starts, they use him just for one-liners and gags, and he's not really a focal point a lot. Well, and I think that might have hindered them a lot.
Well, he's essentially the comic relief of the show. And let's face it, there are no good middle child stories to tell. I can't think of anything that I would rather see from the perspective of a middle child, other than maybe some heavy emotional episodes, but everyday episodes, it's much more fun to see from the perspective of a teenager who's kind of coming into life, or a kid who doesn't know anything about life, as opposed to somebody who's stuck in the middle. That perspective as a viewer holds no interest for me, at least.
And I think when we got that episode where Gene basically went back to preschool, it was kind of he went back to daycare, and he reverted back to that because he thought he had developed chest hair. And he's I'm getting too old, and I don't want responsibilities. I think that might have been the closest we got to an episode about a kid figuring out if he's gonna what an adult's life is actually like, and being I'm not signing up for that. But then I think about episodes where we had Little Bob, and literally Gene embraced the whole thing, and it was fun and hysterical. He was just mostly a side piece, but it was still fun to see him act like an adult as a kid.
But I don't even think in that episode in particular, I don't think it's him wanting to be an adult. More so is it's a kid wanting to play the role of an adult. He doesn't want the responsibility, but he wants to have fun playing dress up, being his dad, playing a caricature of his dad that he thinks he is.
He is acting a lot.
He is. So I don't know. Even with him reverting back to like being a younger version of himself, that was so not interesting because we already have a younger kid to see the world through.
And I
So,
mean, they got the message across that, like, as much as you want to avoid growing up, eventually you have to. Because Gene is
yeah.
just like, no, this is annoying. I don't want to share my Play-Doh, and I don't want to share my snacks, and I don't want, like, this person to spit on me. Like, it was a whole thing where the kid was annoying him. He's like, this is so awful, I want to leave.
So is that the only stories that Gene could fill is the realizing that it's time to grow up stories? Because Tina's already growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Luis isn't there yet or has to deal with those questions. Gene does. So is he a one-trick pony at this point?
I worry that Gene has gotten to a place, and I'm not sure how it happened, because, like, as I was thinking more and more about it too today, when we were going to talk about it, it was, he is a character that could have a lot of development, but he doesn't really have a lot of development. As you said, like, he's kind of stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And we've played up the middle child like thing where it's like notice me with beef, like beef squatch, and like there's a lot of episodes where Gene wants a lot of attention, where he's like Quiet Eli and he wants to be the Gene show, or he's the DJ at Christmas and it's all about Gene. Like Gene likes the attention and focus, which is typical for a middle child, or they just like kind of revert back to like not being noticed. But he wants to be noticed, and I think they could lean into that a little bit. But again, that's when you brought up like the emotional episodes. They would have to go there where like Gene expresses that he doesn't feel noticed, that he feels like he has to do these things to get seen by his parents or get noticed in general.
And I feel like we've seen bits and pieces of that, but they've never really dove deep headfirst into anything emotional for Gene. And if we're being honest, I don't think Tina's ever had like a heavy emotional episode. They've all been reserved for Luis.
They have. Like Tina, I think, has had some, like in the recent episodes, she's had some moments where like she got like the tube top and she's like very like body positive. And Linda's having some insecurities about it, but Tina's not. And I think that could be mostly seen as like a growing up. When she would try to hang out with the teenagers, I think that was kind of a humbling experience for her too. Of like, you don't quite fit in just yet, but she wants to be like them. I think she just did, her stories a lot are about like wanting to grow up and wanting to be that independent woman that she wants to be, but realizing it's not there yet, or it's going to take a lot of time or work to get there.
I think the emotional stories with the characters only work for Luis because her personality is so abrasive. She puts on this hard front, so to see her have an emotional reaction to anything shows some kind of growth. Gene is too much of a try hard look at me, to where if he has any emotional story, it's not as impactful because it kind of lends itself to his character. Tina has no personality at all. If we're being completely honest, she isn't as emotional as Luis. So when something bad happens to her, she doesn't break down. She kind of just goes into her angsty teen.
Yep.
And that's her baseline anyway. So it's like you don't really see the night and day shift as much as you do for Luis. So I kind of feel like that's why she gets the bulk of the emotional episodes. Same with Bob. I mean, he's so even keeled, but when he does get an emotional episode, like with Lily, it hits harder because he's so even keeled the whole time. Which again kind of spits in the face of my theory because he's kind of in the same boat of Tina where they're even keeled. They try to stay balanced. So we haven't.
I think if I'm reading what you're saying, and I think it's kind of like there's dichotomies between the characters. There's like, because like Bob and I would say like Bob and Tina are very similar in a lot of ways. Gene and Linda are very similar in a lot of ways. Because they're very outspoken, very loud, in your face, very quip one-liners. Like they do all those kind of things, and they're very emotionally charged.
Yes.
Where like Bob and Tina are pretty even keeled until they're pushed, and then they kind of rise up.
Mm-hmm.
Louise is really that middle where she acts
Mm-hmm.
hard, but then is really sensitive, and it kind of
Mm-hmm.
fluctuates a lot.
Yeah.
So I think it does make sense that they make a lot of stories about her because she has a lot of range.
Yeah,
and I think Tina does too because they've kind of developed it since the earlier seasons where she's a volatile teen and she has a lot of feelings and she's like interested in boys and wants to do these things, and that allows for stories. I think with Gene, it's really just kind of understanding him and what they want from him as a character. Do they just want him to make jokes? Or do they want him to have more of a layer of like there is a person there?
I think he, at this point, his best role is the comic relief. Because again, Tina is at that point where she's interested in boys and she's interested in being a teenager and having all that. Gene's not a teenager yet, so he can only imagine what that stuff's like. Luis hasn't had the life experience of Gene or Tina yet, so she's learning all the stuff that Gene's already learned. So he can't possibly like have those stories either because he's had those life experiences. So he's kind of just stuck in the middle where any story that we tell of his is essentially a rehashing of Tina's growing up stories. Any stories that we tell of his are essentially rehashing of what he's already learned in Luis's shoes. So I don't know if there's any interesting new stories to tell about Gene, but I feel like we could come up with like a couple.
I definitely came up with a few, and I think for all of you that love Gene, I mean, there's a good crowd of people who love Gene. I think Gene's hysterical. I think there's a lot of episodes where Gene really showcases and shines.
Mm-hmm,
like we were talking about, like Stand By Gene.
Yep.
Gene Mile. There's a couple other ones too that are really good for Gene, where he's doing like the tablescaping. That one's good. There's just a lot of good episodes with Gene where he's doing like even like brunch squash or beef squash. That one does well for Gene.
Well,
it just depends how you do them.
They've also established Gene as somebody who doesn't really follow through on things, so it's hard.
Oh yeah, the burger contest episode. Yeah. He's good in that one too.
So it's hard to write any kind of story knowing that this character more than likely won't follow through with this or won't learn the lesson that he should learn because he gave up. So I don't know. I mean, like I said, we've molded over and we have some ideas of what can be done, but even some of those stories, I don't feel push him to any emotional maturity.
I think that's what he unfortunately is going to have.
Yeah.
They've slowly shown that like he can be somewhat more responsible when he needs to be. Mm-hmm. They've shown that he will try new things even though he doesn't want to. Mm-hmm. That he does kind of know things even though like he's still at an age where he may not. He is aware of things around him. Mm-hmm. And kind of knows that like when people are like making fun of him or making jokes about him, he understands it.
Yeah, and
but he doesn't really talk about it. He just is like, yeah, I know. That's like it, but it's like you gotta let him do the dive. You gotta give him that emotional piece because that would open up Gene.
Yeah, and
he's different than as you said, like the forgetful kid, the starter but not the finisher, like the goofy artsy quirky kid. There's got to be more to him than just those tropes.
And we get little bits of it, like in the Daltos episode, the Halloween episode. We see that he knows right from wrong. We see that he sticks up for people who he feels are being wronged. But it's a blink and you miss it kind of thing. And even in that episode, it doesn't even feel like it's more of a hey, look at Gene doing the right thing. It's more of like Gene. It's more like Luis feeling bad for not sticking up for Gene or something. It doesn't feel like a Gene story.
No, and I think that's also does a disservice to Gene.
Yeah.
Because we had like the drum forgiven where like he gets booted from the store and Louise tries to solve his battle for him and he's like, please don't. Let me do this my own way.
Yeah.
He's asked for that quite a few times. And even, like, if you go way back when Logan got the cantaloupe thrown on him, Gene stood up for Louise and took the what was that thing? The armpit wrestling move for her.
Yeah.
The Norwegian Steven. And took it for her. And he's like, it was bad, but that was where he was like the big brother instead of like Louise basically being his big sister when she's not. I think she oversteps sometimes. I think it'd be nice if he's like, no, I've got this. And when he does that, that's where I think Gene kind of shines, where he leads and he's like, I can do this. I know how to do this.
Yeah, but like the toe episode and the drum machine episode are prime examples of Gene episodes where he gets pushed to the background of his own story.
Yeah.
And that's a shame. I mean, I don't know how I would have rewrote those stories. But yeah, he kind of gets relegated to just a prop for a lot of the episodes. But not tonight.
No, I've written down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different
Jesus
episodes.
Christ.
Yeah. Just ideas. Just ideas.
I got 2.
That's fine. That's fine. I need someone to edit him down. So that's
yeah, there's gonna be a lot of editing. Jesus Christ. Okay. Well, since you have 7 and I have 2, I'm gonna throw out mine first.
Throw your 2.
Yeah. So cross yours out if we do the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm thinking, and this is more of a kids episode with Gene being the standout of the episode. But one of the ideas I had was, we all know Bob's favorite holiday is Thanksgiving. It's beaten into our heads every year. Where's the Thanksgiving episode? Bob loves Thanksgiving. He talks to the basers. He talks to the turkeys. Turkeys talk to him. But what if there's a year where he can't do Thanksgiving? Not like Gail making bobsled where he's just not at the house, but Bob is at the house but incapacitated. He's either injured or he's sick and he just can't make Thanksgiving. But the kids have been with Bob their whole lives. They've seen him cook Thanksgiving every year. Occasionally they help him. And the kids decide that they want to try their hand at making Thanksgiving dinner for the family. Nothing extravagant, but the kids want to try. And Gene kind of takes lead on that with doing the turkey. Louise doesn't want to. She wants to use the fire to make the marshmallows,
the sweet potato casserole,
the sweet potato casserole, creme brulee, whatever she wants to do with the fire. Tina is dealing with sides. Somebody has to do the turkey. Gene takes the lead. And we find out that, hey, maybe he likes cooking, or maybe this is kind of his thing. And he learns something new about himself. And Bob learns, and I guess Linda too, she's there. Bob learns that, hey, this kid has a knack for cooking. I should foster this. And maybe it becomes a thing, maybe it doesn't become a thing. But, I mean, it allows Gene to branch out to something we haven't seen him do. Although in the snack episode, we did see him create a brand new snack with chips.
Yeah, manglers.
Yeah, this would allow him to show another side of himself that we haven't necessarily seen, and maybe that he doesn't even know exists within himself until he's thrown feet first into the fire.
And I think that could actually work. I know when we were kind of talking about it during the live, we talked about this a little bit. And I think you could get 2 things done with this episode. You could do what you're saying, and I think that works because I think people are craving a Thanksgiving episode. This would give it that. I do think you could also sneak in Big Bob into this and have him help. I think it would also bridge that gap where like Bob could actually, like, maybe Linda walks into the kitchen and sees how good Big Bob is with the kids and helping them. And she's like, Bob, you just got to come see this. And like literally he's just like, my dad's being a dad. And he's like, this is cool. And he's just, and then they could have a moment and Gene could also like rise to the occasion. Like, he's like, you got a good kid here, Junior. He's doing great. He cooked all this himself. He's got a good palate. And then like Gene could actually get maybe the toast. He's like, we'll let Gene do the toast.
How do you do that without having Bob feel like, oh, my dad was able to help Gene, but he didn't do it for me? How do you sidestep that? Why wasn't I good enough for this when I was a kid?
I think Bob knows that, because we haven't got to that yet, but it's implied that Big Bob had a really hard time when Lily died. And he kind of just went into his business, and that's what he focused on. And he kind of lost track of Bob. especially Bob's creativity, because we see that in the Christmas episode where he doesn't want to be Bob and Sons. He wants to do his own burger shop.
Yep.
So I think it could be almost like a redeeming story for Big Bob to be like, he's a good grandpa. He really wants to do well and better. He's just not sure how, but he's really trying. I think you could have Eric Bauza do a great job as Big Bob in making that emotional connection. I think for Bob too, as much as it would be like a slap in the face in a lot of people's eyes, I think as a parent, seeing your parent who wasn't the best really stepping up and showing that they've learned some things along the way and they've kind of grown up and they've kind of realized their error of their ways. I think if Big Bob apologized and showed that, I think you could have a really good episode.
Bob and Big Bob would definitely have to have a conversation, even if it's a simple, because Bob's not a one for a deep emotional conversation. Neither is his dad. It could be as simple as, hey, I'm sorry. I wasn't there for you when you were a kid. I had a hard time with your mom's passing. And all Bob has to do is acknowledge and say, I know. And then you're done. It doesn't need to be a whole thing, but there has to be some acknowledgement from Big Bob to say, hey, I messed up. Bob saying, hey, I understand.
Exactly.
And then are we good? We're good. And then they're both just like watching Gene cook.
Exactly. I think it's realizing, and I mean, it could be a quick pan shot of Gene cooking and literally like he says something to the kids, the other Belcher kids, and they're like, yes, chef. And it's just like a nod, and like Big Bob could literally just put his arm around little Bob. And that's the end of the episode. Yeah, it's just like, that's good enough.
That would give an emotional release or an emotional maturity to Big Bob. It would give our Bob some kind of closure that he may or may not understand that he needs. And it gives us a better understanding of Gene all in one episode.
It also gives Gene a quality. He's not just a musical artsy kid. He also can cook. Yeah. And it's something that Bob's passionate about. It could lead to other episodes. It allows you to branch out with Big Bob. It allows you to branch out with Gene and Gene and Bob being connected more, and also having more Big Bob episodes as a grandparent and allowing Linda and Bob to do things on their own and having good A and B plots.
I think it would allow Bob and Gene to become closer, but I think they also learned from the banjo episode that I think they learned how to make that Bob and Gene relationship stronger without having to sacrifice Bob's relationship with the other kids, because that one Luis suffered. So here could even show maturity for Bob to say, hey, now I know how to relate to all of my kids.
Yes. Because he's done the rowboat episode or the boat episode with Tina. He's done a lot of things with Tina.
Yep.
Louise, we've seen him go to the aquarium. He's done things with Louise as well. Gene and him have done the VR thing, and they've done. Yeah. I mean, and when you look at that, there's usually, it's not a pleasant experience; it's a negative experience, because then they did beef squash, and that was a negative experience for them. Yeah. I mean, the closest we get to them having a good moment is like at the end of the VR episode. Bob's like, "I'm sorry, this sucks," but that's about it. They're still miserable together.
Yeah, but even then, that was a Gene thing that Bob wasn't interested in. He only interested because it was his kid. This could be something that they both are interested in. And it would allow Bob to see, because I'm picturing Gene not really wanting to do burgers like Bob does. He's like, oh, you can come cook with me. And the kid's just like, oh, I'm not really into burgers. So it would allow Bob to then see from the perspective of his dad when he was in the same position and say, hey, I saw how my dad dealt with this. I know how that made me feel, so I know
let him have his own creativity.
Yeah. It's like, okay, I know how to handle this now, and then maybe
because then he can make his own. Has he made that mashed potato casserole during the Rudy episode, the lasagna? So it allows him to make things like that.
Yeah. But I think that would be a really good episode. That maybe 2 aspiring podcasters should write.
We could.
I think we will.
It should happen.
But that's my first pitch of an episode. Let me hear one of yours, and hopefully it's not my only other one.
Mine off, so that's
oh,
good.
Thank God.
Because it got Big Bob into it, so that works.
Okay.
The other one that I had is that Gene. There's two that I really think Gene could do. I think the one I want to go over first is, I think that for an emotional episode, it's realizing that Gene doesn't have his own friends. I think Gene, like, Alex is sort of there, but then he like did that whole thing with the doll toes where literally he kind of threw him under the bus and went to the party without him and like made fun of him. We don't really see Alex that much. Courtney's there, but she's not really like always there, where like he hangs out with Tina's friends. He hangs out with Louise's friends.
Yeah,
he
and
doesn't
he does
really
not like
have
Courtney.
a best friend, and he doesn't really have like someone like those, like the other two Belchers have. So it could be a very middle child thing where like he's kind of in the middle and doesn't understand that like he may realize like they both groups go do their own things and he doesn't have anybody.
So then my question to that would be, how do we pull out of that tailspin of an emotional episode? Because all the other emotional episodes, we've had redeeming factors at the end that kind of pull us back to like, oh, and now we feel better. Here, at the end, does he still not have friends?
I think what we need to have is that he actually may make one, or that he's got the start of one. Or that he finds a group of kids, kind of like how we had like Josh, Tina's first boyfriend outside of Jimmy Jr. He was at the art school and like he had a big group of friends and he did dance stuff and things like that with them. I think it's Gene finding kids playing with like other instruments and doing other weird things. It could be the kid who makes puppets. It could be like there's a group of kids after school that do stuff like that, and Gene just didn't know about it because he's like, I don't listen to the announcements unless I'm doing them. So it could be very much something where he kind of finds it on accident and is like, oh, this is my group of people. I kind of belong here.
I want to take that story, and the ending that I'm thinking is
yeah. What do you got?
It's an emotional maturity for Gene where he realizes, hey, I don't think I have my own friends, and that's okay. I let me get good with myself. Let me enjoy things on my own, and when it happens, it happens. And then he has that conversation with Luis and Tina, and he kind of walks out of the restaurant, and he looks to like maybe his right, and the sun setting over Wonder Wharf, and he's just walking towards Wonder Wharf, and that's the end of the episode. Gene is on his own, but he understands that that's not necessarily a bad thing.
It very well could be. You don't need to rely on other people.
Yeah. But I dig it. I think I don't. I mean, we've dealt with heavy subjects before. We dealt with the death of Lily. So can we deal with the kids, or a kid learning that he doesn't really have friends?
Because there is an ongoing thing where like he makes friends and then finds out that he says that they're too much. Like the one kid, he's like, he's so much, I couldn't handle him. And then he's like, no, you were too much. Yeah. And I think it's kind of maybe Gene coming to terms with the fact that maybe he just is a lot, but he just hasn't found the right group of friends yet.
And that makes sense. I mean, even in the school, he's in a class. Like, we see all the kids in the same class. So it's really hard to tell, like, who is Gene's...
who's in Gene's grade.
Yeah, who's his equal?
Besides Peter Pescadero, that's the only person we really know.
Besides that, I mean, it's hard because, I mean, it's very obvious who the teenagers are. It's very obvious who the little kids are. There is really no middle ground for Gene. And the kids who are on his level, the Courtneys, he doesn't really like her. He doesn't like people who are on his level, like, emotionally speaking. He doesn't like the loud, obnoxious kids because he's a loud, obnoxious kid.
Yeah, maybe that's why him and Courtney clash a lot. They're similar in a lot of ways, and I think they clash. But I think it's also what magnetizes them together, draws them together, is that they're so similar.
And I'm curious if Gene doesn't like that because he's realizing, hey, I do this, and now I realize that it's not cool, or it's I don't like the taste of my own medicine. Only I get to be this obnoxious.
Well, I think it's about attention. They both want attention.
Yeah.
And I think they get it in different ways. So I think if they're trying to find a spotlight and there's only one, they end up fighting over it. So it ends up being a problem. Because even when like Courtney's doing that music video and she wants Gene to be in it, he can't set himself out to be like, I can do this for a friend. I can do this for somebody. He makes it like about himself.
Or even when Alex and Courtney were doing the dancing.
Yep.
Like, Gene had the opportunity. He didn't want it, but then he was so upset when somebody else took the opportunity. Yep. So unless he's the center of attention, he seems to not be emotionally mature enough to understand, like, oh, this is good for my friends. But once he realizes, like, good for my friends, even if I don't get to do the thing too, then he'll be okay. But until then, he's kind of just insufferable at times.
So I think you have to have some sort of a realization with Gene where he comes to terms with either he's too much or needs to calm it down, or it's more or less that he needs to just kind of understand his urges for attention and things like that and how it is affecting him. I think if you have an emotional break with Gene, I think it opens up way more doorways than closes.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think it's a solid idea, and I got one more for you, and I know you got like 6 more lined up.
I'll just do one more. Just do one more.
Thank God. And this one's not even an emotional story. It's something that already lends itself to Gene and what we know about him up to this point. It kind of also scratches an itch that isn't necessarily a Bob's thing, but just like a people thing, a universal thing. Thanksgiving. It's another Thanksgiving thing. There are no Thanksgiving songs. There just aren't. Gene,
besides Linda's, but
besides Linda's. But Gene is the songbird of the family. He likes to sing. He likes to perform. He likes to do all this. And maybe there's an episode where like they go around saying what they're thankful for, and Gene maybe can't like convey what he's thankful for, maybe because he doesn't understand how to, maybe he just can't put it into words, but he can put it into a song, and maybe he ends up writing the first Thanksgiving song, something fully fleshed out, something that is entirely his, something that he's super proud of, and that the family goes, holy smokes, you did it, Gene. You wrote a Thanksgiving song. You may have wrote the Thanksgiving song. And yeah, I just think that'd be fun because it would allow Gene to expand on his love for music, his need for attention, and most importantly, approval, because really it's what he's looking for is approval. And it gives us a new Thanksgiving song.
I like that idea. I think because Gene's never really written a song.
No.
Even like Daryl brings up, he's like, are you just going to say the same one line over and over again? He's like, I mean, that's kind of what I do.
Yeah.
He's more of like making a jingle. I think it's time for him to make a song.
Yeah.
Like a really fleshed out song. And I know the Bob's music crew would just nail it because they're so good at what they do. But I think it could be a great episode, similar to like Fluey's with like the songs and things like that. Because it could be as the episode goes, he's developing the song. So we hear bits and pieces of it. And at the end, it all comes together and he performs it. I think that could be huge. And I don't know, it'd be really actually kind of cool.
Yeah. And I just think it would give Gene a win that he so desperately needs. Something that kind of sets him apart from, I mean, not because he's overshadowed by Luis or Tina, but like something that is all
just
his
own.
Just his own. So yeah, that'd be my second pitch for a Gene episode, is him getting to write a fully fledged song that he would perform for the family.
I like it.
Yeah.
I think he definitely happened to.
Yeah.
My last idea is that Gene is very protective over one teacher in particular, because when Miss Bisselbender shows up and takes Miss Merkin's spot, everyone in that music group is obsessed with Miss Merkin. They love her. It could be an episode where Gene is going to throw a party for Miss Merkin. And it's like he actually gets to show how much he cares about somebody. And maybe he writes the song for her, then like we can continue that. But I think it could be really cool if you put on a play about her life, and it really could be like an emotional episode where like he really delivers the whole thing.
She retiring in this episode?
Maybe, yeah.
No. Yeah,
maybe she's still around, but she's just not a focal point at the school anymore.
That'd be good because it would give Gene the ability to show an emotional range that we haven't seen from him really. Him expressing
and the start and finisher. He actually starts planning it, finishes the whole thing, does it.
Even if it's out of spite for somebody saying you don't really do this isn't your thing. And he kind of just buckles down and says, screw you, I'm going to do it. And then he realizes, oh, I enjoy doing this. And he kind of pulls it off. Yeah, I would like to see something like that. I mean, like I said, it would give Gene an emotional range we haven't quite seen. Him going out of his way for somebody else, not in like a defensive way like he did with Miss Bisselbender and the camel toe of it all. But like, this is somebody I admire. This is somebody who I look up to, I care about. And this is me showing how grateful I am for them. And yeah, I just think like to piggyback off that story, it could be like she's retiring and nobody's doing anything for her. And like that's a travesty. She's a angel and blah 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 blah. And so he kind of steps up and does it all for her.
Because I could see him like kind of taking control and being like, I need these kids to make like party decorations. He asks his parents if he can use the restaurant. Like he could ask his dad and be like, make a burger of the day for her. Like it could be a whole thing, and I think it could be a lot of fun.
I think so too. I think that's a great idea. It's almost as if for an example, I'm pulling this completely out of thin air, but like let's say a show that a really well-known show that people love had like a 10-year anniversary, and that nobody was doing anything for.
Oh, I would have no idea what you're talking about.
And then two
over the garden wall.
Something, man. Just over that garden wall, the grass is greener. And two intrepid podcast hosts decided, you know what? We're gonna step up. We're gonna do something for these people that we love so much.
Yes.
I just as an example.
As a small example,
as a random example that plucking out of the air.
Just two random people,
Just two guys. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's a solid idea. I think we have 4 really solid ideas that if I ever see on the show and our names are not attached to it, I will burn this place to the ground.
Best believe it. It's gonna look like Bob and Teddy were like going easy on each other when they scream at each other.
Yeah. Well, JB, I think we did. I think we pitched really 4 solid Gene episode ideas that I think would hit all the marks that we kind of talked about, the emotional side of it all. Gene coming into his own, doing something that is strictly just his. And will those ever happen in Bob's? I don't know. Are those even the stories they're wanting to tell for Gene as a character? I don't know. Is it something the fans want? I don't know.
They
do. We'll tell them what they want. But all I know is we pitched 4 really great ideas, and I think those are good starting points for folks to run with. But well, I think that's a good as place as any to kind of put the kibosh in this particular episode.
I agree with you.
Is there anything you'd like to let the listeners know before we kind of wrap this up?
If you just kind of going off what Mike said at the beginning, if you haven't listened to our first 2 episodes, go ahead and listen to them. It's just an introduction of us, and then also a little bit about holiday episodes. We did talk about a lot about Thanksgiving, so if you don't know, go ahead and listen to episode 2, and you might get a little bit of I don't want to spoil anything, but
yeah. Also, why are you starting at episode 3? Go back and listen to the other 2. Catch up.
It's not too far back.
It's not too far back. These episodes aren't very long. What are you doing? But yes, follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. Yes, I said Twitter.
Yes, it's still Twitter.
Blue Sky, Facebook. If you search from North to Wharf, you'll find all of our stuff there. Instagram is our bread and butter, of course. We have a Discord. Follow that as well. All those links can be found on our Instagram page.
Up on our bio, yeah.
In our bio. Shout out to Chris Moore, who created the theme song for this podcast, the intro and the outro that you hear. And yeah. Until next time, this has been From North to Wharf, the podcast, your unofficial but verified one-stop destination for Bob's Burgers information. As always, I am Mike.
And I'm JB.
We'll see you next time.
See you guys.
I wish my radio worked.
Oh, I wish my radio worked.
Wish my radio worked. I wish my radio worked.
Go on, scat. No, not. I mean.
Scatty, batty, batty.
I meant go, not scat. Go.
Oh,
Go.
Where am I supposed to go?
Shoot.
Ah.
Get out. Get out.
So I should go?